speech.
Let's start with the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Jeff, could you do a roll call, please?
Rosenberg. Myler.
Here.
Roach. Absent. Carney.
Here.
Hudson.
Here.
Van Hook. Here. All right, you have quorum.
Have a quorum, okay. The minutes from February 24th are attached. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes?
Make a motion?
Okay. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed? Carries. Jeff, 2.1, please.
Yes, 2.1 is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute an intergovernmental agreement with O'Fallon Township Road District for the resurfacing of Bowler Road from north of O'Fallon Troy Road to Hari Road. So it was reached out to by the engineer working for the township on resurfacing Bowler Road. Those of you not familiar with Bowler Road is the road that continues north where North Lincoln curves, turns into O'Fallon Troy Road. What I show here on this aerial, what the red line represents is the township jurisdiction, the blue line is city jurisdiction. And that's all denoted based off of where the city is annexed contiguous to the roadway. So they said they were planning on overlaying their portion. They want to know if we wanted to participate. They could be a good project for us to work with them on to continue that up to the location where it was reconstructed as part of the O'Fallon Troy Road rebuild. So I would recommend approval of this agreement.
Okay, any questions from the committee? Council? And, sorry, could we get a motion?
Make a motion.
Second.
Second.
Roll call, Jeff?
Carney?
Yes.
Van Hook?
Yes.
Hudson?
Yes.
Rosenberg?
Affirmative.
Myler?
Yes.
All right, that will move forward to next Monday's city council meeting. All right, item 2.2 is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement with Hanks Excavating and Landscaping, Inc. for the North Cherry Street Improvement Project in the amount of $2,314,811.10 based on the unit prices submitted. So this is a project located on the North Cherry Street area. I'll scroll down to it on an aerial here. I have it outlined in blue. So it's area of North Cherry and West Wesley Street. So in this area, there is 3 locations where there's flooding that occurs. So there'll be a lot of drainage improvements that are going to occur here to solve those issues. In addition, the drainage way that drains to the west from this area, a stormwater detention pond is going to be built there in order to mitigate any additional runoff that would occur with the improvements that are happening. And then also replacing all of the water lines in this location with new PVC mains, and then finally a mill and overlay of all the roadways in the subdivision. So I would recommend approval.
Any questions from the committee?
Do we have a time frame on that?
So the plan would be to start this sometime this summer, and the goal would be to have it completed by the end of this construction season. So I want to say like Thanksgiving timeframe is what we're shooting for.
Anyone else?
So this has positive impact on flooding and amount of water downstream, correct?
Yeah, so with the stormwater detention pond installation, it'll create an area of storage to hold back that stormwater and release it at a slower rate.
Anyone else? Council? Residents have any questions? Motion, please.
Second.
Do you have a question?
Real quick, Dave, Creek, there's a lot of water coming off that property right now.
Can you please step up the mic? Thank you.
Creek, I just wondered if you put an intention basing, there's a lot of water coming off of that right now that affects our backyards, our flow in our property.
Whatever naturally drained that way prior to development does still currently.
Okay, so we're going to see a decrease in the water levels in our backyard because of that, along Eagle Creek, and the water levels?
I mean, I can't speak to what's going to occur a mile away from here that hasn't been analyzed as part of this. It's just the release rate, the rate at which the water runs off the site will be less after that stormwater detention
So
pond is
this
put in.
really doesn't, because the question was how this affects us downstream, and really, we don't know how this affects us downstream then.
Not from a hydrological standpoint where it's analyzed, but the release rate at this spot will be less.
Okay.
Which then, in turn, would mean it would lessen it downstream.
Okay? So it may not affect anything down in our backyards then,
It's going to slow the rate
from that area.
from that area.
Right.
Which that area inherently ends up down.
It does,
toward your-
eventually.
So if it slows the
Right.
area, I'm not an engineer, but if it slows the water coming off of this piece of property.
Right.
Then logically it would say,
Well,
again, I'm not
then
an
we-
engineer.
Then we should see some kind of decrease
Right.
downstream. Right. And, okay?
Do we have a motion in a second?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
You good?
Vern, do you have something before we vote here?
Vern Malaire, Ward 3. Just a question in regard to that. Is it a retention pond that you're going to put in?
It's a detention pond.
Excuse me?
Detention.
So so that means it's going to come in at a lower level, fill up, and then drain out, correct?
Correct.
Okay, what's your depth of that pond?
I'd have to pull up the plans to get an exact depth of it.
Could maybe get an answer to that maybe next week or something? How deep it's going to be?
Yeah, I can let you know. Sure.
Cool, thank you.
Okay, there's no further questions. Roll call, Jeff?
Van Hook,
Yes.
Hudson,
Yes.
Rosenberg,
Affirmative?
Myler,
Yes.
Carney.
Yes.
All right, that'll move forward to next Monday also. Okay, 2.3 is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute an amendment to the agreement for design engineering services with Gonzalez Companies LLC for the Northern Dancer Lift Station Improvements Project in the amount of $187,000. So Gonzalez is currently working on the redesign of the Northern Dancer Lift Station. In that, they were going to model approximately 20% of the north trunk line of our sewer system. The budget that starts here in a couple days, we had planned on set aside funds to model the entire north trunk line. So rather than just looking at this small 20% area, it makes more sense to comprehensively look at the whole north trunk line at once. So what they're doing is removing the tasks for analyzing the smaller portion, increasing it to the full north trunk line. The majority of the additional costs associated with this, though, is actually purchasing of the flow meters that are used to calibrate the model. So when you do a sewer model, you put it in a computer program, but then you get actual flow data from the sewer during dry events, during rain events, and use that to calibrate it. So in total, purchasing 13 of those flow meters is $115,000 roughly. We looked at an option to rent them for a 3-month period. You want them in there at least that long of a duration to get some good data. Just renting them alone is $57,000. Knowing that the plan long-term is to turn around hopefully next fiscal year and do the south trunk line, it just makes more sense for us to purchase these flow meters now and have them. It doesn't mean we're only going to use them to look at the north and south trunk line. We can put these out into our system any point in time and try to pinpoint areas where we know we have increased infiltration. So these aren't just going to sit on a shelf. We want to continue to use them throughout our system to help only grow and improve that model even further. So I would recommend approval of this agreement.
Okay. Committee, any questions?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? Vern?
I don't have any.
My name's Karen Pfeiffer, and you're talking about the north trunk line of the sewer, correct?
Correct.
Where
yeah.
is that located? Do you have that on a map and show us where that is?
I could pull it up here on our utility map. It runs along Eagle Creek. pretty
So
much
it runs
from
through, what I'm
the old.
looking at is, does that run through our backyards?
It does, yes.
Okay, and you're talking about redoing that trunk line?
Eventually, where it is phased to be replaced over probably 5-10 year period within our capital plan.
And starting now?
We're
And
starting
where-
at the downstream end, working our way up.
And where would that be? Where are you going to start and where are you going to end?
So we've already replaced a portion of it from east of Scott Troy Road. So we have a plan right now, an emergency repair that's underway to do another portion of that. So again, it's starting from the downstream end, which is all the way out almost by our wastewater treatment plant out on Reeder Road, and working our way west
Okay.
into town along Engle Creek. But then there's also the south trunk line that goes along Rock Springs Branch. We also have other projects identified to replace it at the same time.
Okay, thanks.
This is phased. You're doing this in phases.
It's a phased approach, yeah.
Any other questions, Vern?
Vern Ware, Ward 3. Question, was this bid out competitively, or was this sole sourced?
So the engineering is sole source with Gonzalez. Gonzalez did receive bids from 2 different vendors for the flow meters themselves. So we did
Okay,
take in
but a
additional bids
portion
for
of
that.
this contract, going through the paperwork, shows that it was signed by the mayor back in '24. So why isn't that rebid as a total package then?
So these are professional services for engineers. Per Illinois law, you cannot bid professional services. So we've hired Gonzalez to design this lift station, in turn also model a portion of the trunk line. We're expanding that scope to do the entire north trunk line now.
So there's going to be additional funds needed on top of what was already proposed, correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay, and how much is that, was it again?
The 187,000 is in addition to
To
the original.
To the original bid was, I think, 137?
120, yeah, 130, something like that.
120, 137, something like that, so an additional 187,000.
123.
123.80 was the
okay.
initial.
Okay. All right, thank you much.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions?
But the bulk of that is to purchase these flow meters.
Yeah, 115,000 of the 187 addition is to just purchase those flow meters. The rest is the engineering fees to do the full hydraulic model of the sewer line.
Okay.
And that original contract also included the full design plans and specifications for a total lift station replacement at Northern Dancer.
All right, no other questions? We can do a roll call, Jeff?
Hudson,
Yes.
Rosenberg,
Affirmative.
Mylert,
Yes.
Carney,
Yes.
Van Hook.
Yes.
All right, I will also move forward to next Monday. Okay, item 2.4 is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement for design engineering services with Oates Associates, Inc. for the Auto Court patching project in the amount of $34,060. So this is an agreement for engineering services for Oates to go out. They'll perform a survey using drones to collect data of the roadways. They'll then use that to create plans and specifications to bid out a patching project for Auto Court. I don't know if anyone's driven on Auto Court here recently. It is desperate need of some repair work, especially with the new businesses that are coming in. I think now's the time to make those improvements. The goal would be to turn this around rather quickly and hopefully even try to build this project late summer into fall and get it completed still this calendar year. So I'd recommend approval.
So moved.
Yeah, motion. Okay, any questions to the committee?
Hey, Jeff, we've talked about it, that road's terrible. Is patching going to be enough for that, you think?
You know, we've looked at it. There's multiple locations where patching is going to have to occur, and that's going to be full depth, complete concrete patching, where you're even having to take out quite a bit of subgrade, bring in additional rock. The one thing we could look at adding would be an asphalt overlay over top of it. just with the commercial nature of that area and the larger trucks and that, I just don't know if that would lend itself well. I think just the full asphalt or concrete patching is what's going to be best for that area to start.
And we are getting more and more of those facilities out there.
Yes, yep.
Any question of council? Residents, got anything? Good, man.
Ron Zelms, Ward 6, just a quick one. Yeah, that road is bad. I'm just curious, where's the city's responsibility in it? I assume it's the main north-south, that none of the laterals that go off to like where the Nissan place used to be and things like that? Is it just the north-south?
It's the north-south and it is the one the east-west also. It's Auto Court and it's New Car Drive are both public right-of-way.
Oh, okay, thanks.
Yeah. So yeah, on this aerial here, where the blue lines are drawn are what are considered public roadways.
Some more questions, I think we're ready for roll call, Jim.
Okay. Rosenberg,
Affirmative.
Mylert,
Yes.
Carney,
Yes.
Van Hook,
Yes.
Hudson.
Yes.
Okay, you'll see that one next Monday also. And last item, 2.5 is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement with Gonzalez Companies LLC for the Veneta Drive Bridge widening study in an amount not to exceed fee of $20,000. So with recent approval of the Park Place development, within that traffic study, it talked about long-term, there's going to be a need to really look at this bridge and determine how it could potentially be widened. Gonzalez, the structural engineer on staff there, was the engineer who designed the bridge. So we reached out to them just to take a look at the plans to see, what could be done. So there's a couple options we're going to look at. First is going to be the existing substructure below the bridge. What can be done utilizing that to potentially accommodate maybe one more lane? Is that possible? Is that feasible? And then beyond that, determining what would need to be done structurally to either a whole nother separate bridge to accommodate 2 lanes or potentially adding on to the existing bridge that's there. So this is going to take a look at a couple of those different options, provide some typical sections and details of what it could look like, and then provide some rough cost estimating on what we're looking at, a magnitude of cost to do that. So I'd recommend approval of this agreement.
Make a motion?
Second.
All right. Any question, committee?
I have a question. It's been brought up before about the possibility of 2 additional lanes ground level. And I know we'd have to talk to the railroads and all that, but we own that property where the park is. I don't know whether between, like on the east side of the hotel, if there's a way, because we had talked at one point, or part of the Forward 50, of making Talon and that back area like a through kind of thing. Is there any chance of getting them to look at, is it even worth looking at 2 additional lanes? That way the bridge could stay 2 lanes, dedicated one direction or the other, and 2 lanes somewhere else ground level. That way we still have the bridge if an emergency arises for the fire trucks and stuff. Is that even a worthy thought process?
I mean, currently we're really just looking at the current alignment that's there. The city does currently control and own a good portion of land to the west of the existing bridge that would have enough space to accommodate a whole nother bridge structure with 2 additional lanes, even potentially an at-grade crossing if we wanted to look at it that way. But really, I think right now, the main thing is looking at the existing bridge and just coming up with alternatives. But yeah, we're not going to rule out other alignments or, an at-grade crossing also.
Anyone else?
I just have a question regarding the bridge.
1 second. Jessica, do you want to go first, Jessica?
I'm just curious, how was the original bridge funded?
Walter, can you help me out?
Well, it was a combination. The CSX Railroad paid for part of it. We received a grant, and then there were Build America bonds. So it was kind of a combination between state grant, railroad, and federal bonds.
Council, anybody else got anything? Residents?
Tracy M. McSorley at 837 Deer Creek Road. If we're going to be putting another bridge on that area, especially with the traffic for Park Place, the road traffic, the vehicle traffic, what are you doing in consideration of bicycle traffic and pedestrian traffic that may be occurring in that area? Is there going to be an accommodation or an intent for the contractor that's coming in to do the evaluation, if they're going to look at that? Because of we don't have that ability now to cross that bridge as pedestrians without taking your own life in your hands. And as a bicyclist, I'm just curious to know, what the options are.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, any project we do look at pedestrian accommodations. There is currently a sidewalk separated from the driving lanes on that bridge.
It's really unnerving.
Yeah, and so, there are options. Right now, there are no pedestrian facilities along Highway 50 that you would really tie into. A lot of times, they want to make sure you're connecting into other facilities, but with a sports park there and the trail system and that, it only makes sense to look into other options.
You have the scooters there.
Yep.
And that would be a nice, easy way to get there if you also make the accommodation for bicycles.
Yeah, and even, to Ross's comment, I mean, maybe that's an option. You look at an at-grade crossing, could that be easier accommodated for a bike trail rather than a
Even if you don't
road?
put it on the bridge itself, there has to be a way to get over there a little bit more easily than there is right now.
Sure. Yeah, and that was specifically noted in the Forward 50 plan that we worked through last year. It showed some trail connections from the sports park down to Highway 50.
Just so you know that anything that crosses the railroad, we've got to make nice with those people.
Yeah.
Hi, Karen Pfeiffer again. I just wanted to ask a question because I wasn't able to come to any of the meetings about this development that you've got over here. How much are the developers kicking in to help with roads?
They're paying all the cost of the roads.
They're paying all the costs of the roads,
Yes.
including the bridge?
Right now, as part of that development, the bridge widening is not required, but they are doing improvements to the intersection of Highway 50 and Veneta.
And Veneta. And up to the roundabout, up to, I can't think of the name of the road now, as it comes off the roundabout at the back of the park.
Yeah, Simmons.
Yeah,
and
because
Porter.
that's very busy all day long
Yeah.
over there.
Yeah, so all the offsite road improvements that were required and specified in the traffic study, the developer's paying 100% of those costs.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Just ready for a vote, Jeff?
Okay, Mylert,
Yes.
Carney,
Yes.
Van Hook,
Yes.
Hudson,
Yes.
Rosenberg.
Affirmative.
All right, that will move forward to next Monday also. That's all the items requiring action
All
tonight.
right, thank you, Jeff. No other business to deal with. Any comments or questions from the committee or council?
I did get word on one thing I wanted to make the committee and council aware of. So earlier this year, we submitted a surface transportation grant and a congestion mitigation air quality grant. Both of those, we just found out recently, are recommended for approval by East West Gateway. So the STP grant is to do some patching, resurfacing work on Hartman Lane from Central Park south to where our jurisdictional limits end near Meadowbrook. And then the CMAQ project is to add an additional westbound lane on Highway 50 from Greenmount Road west to State Street. So both of those are recommended for funding. So now the process is they go to St. Clair County and Illinois transportation boards for concurrence, and then ultimately East West Gateway Board would vote on those to approve them. And we're roughly looking at about $2 million in federal funds should be receiving.
Great. Thank you, Jeff. 4.1 public comments.
Any issues now? Is that where we're at? Dave Pfeiffer, Engle Creek, Deer Creek Road. Again, I'm referencing the 14 March storm event. The picture was posted on Facebook about a massive erosion and trees that were brought down during that storm. And there were some comments, and Mr. Rosenberg, you made the comments about missing in the conversation was an acknowledgement of several projects and millions of dollars the city has spent on infrastructure upstream in an effort to alleviate downstream flooding issues. If you have a list of stuff like that, can I get that from you? Sure. Okay, so I can expect to see that. And I'd really like to see that and see how that list of projects referred to has affected the flooding and the torrential flow of water across the region and how the volume and velocity of the water flowing through our backyard. So if you can get that, I'd love to acknowledge those if you can give me that list of projects. I'd love to see them. I saw something else in that picture. I saw a failure again of the city's stormwater program along Engle Creek. Well, at that spot, we had 30 feet of creek bank washed out, 6 large trees, 60 to 70 feet tall, and probably 70 to 80 years old trees that have been washed out there, again, just enlarging the bank and just destroying our property. Downstream, we have another 30 feet of creek bank left out. Again, huge trees, 6 or 7 of them, again, right in the middle of the creek, in a channel blocking the creek. Again, if you haven't drove down Seven Hills Road and seen the massive collection of debris that collects at the city sewer line on that piling, incredible, washed down, all that washing off the banks of the creek and destroying our property and enlarging the creek. And across Seven Hills Road, again, they had to go in and place pilings in front of the sewer line that they need to protect, that they don't protect our property, but they have to protect down there. And this is after just being down there for 10 months ago. So 10 months ago, they put it down. It failed again 10 months later, and it's probably going to fail again to have to go down there. It's great that you wait till the city sewer line is exposed, and so that when it comes up to our sewer line, that we're going to have to see steel pilings in our backyard in order to control this project. And downstream, the water levels down there are even lower than the ones in our backyard. So really, this is a much bigger picture of failure of your projects. And as for the studies you mentioned, you still can't find Engle Creek. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Ross, I will note, we do have a public map available online that shows all the stormwater projects that have been undertaken throughout the city. So that's all available online for anyone to find.
I'd like to see his list.
It's online.
My name is Rod Thompson. I have resided at 753 Deer Creek Road in O'Fallon with my wife Deborah Thompson since we moved here in 1996. After the hailstorm in March, I received a letter from the city of O'Fallon dated April 9th, 2025, signed by Chad Truren, a building official employed by the city, notifying us that inspectors would be in our area conducting assessments for substantial damage determinations. The letter defined substantial damage assessments as inspections required for any structures in the floodplain that have sustained damage from any source, wind, hail, fire, flood, etc. The inspection determines if a structure is more than 50% damage, impaired and substantially damaged. If a structure is found to be substantially damaged, the structure may not be repaired until it meets current flood protection requirements. It is imperative that the community permit office is contacted prior to taking any actions to repair damage related to the flood. Please note the phrase, "to repair damage related to the flood," as stated in the O'Fallon letter, not the hailstorm. I complied with the requirements of this letter by forwarding the estimate by our insurance inspector for hail damage to our roof and our siding. I did not understand how hail damage can be related to the flood, as stated in the O'Fallon City letter. I looked online and printed out the State of Illinois Flood Damage Assessment Package dated December 2021. This document defines substantial damage as whenever a building located in a mapped floodplain is damaged from any source, imperance, flood, fire, wind, or man-made, the community must determine if that structure is substantially damaged. Substantial damage is when the cost of repairs are 50% of the structure's pre-damaged market value. Note that that list does not say etc. and is only the following: flood, fire, wind, or man-made. The mention of hail is not included in that list. It goes on to say manufacturing homes can be substantially damaged with as little as 1 foot of flooding. Frame buildings typically take 3 feet or more of flooding. The document states clearly, this is the State of Illinois document, cost of flood damage repairs. How is hail that hits a roof or siding associated with flood damage? I called FEMA, Federal Emergency Management Agency office today. I asked how hail damage could be interpreted as flood damage. I was referred to the National Flood Insurance Program Flood Insurance Manual dated April 2024, which is available online. The FEMA representative told me that substantial damage is located in the manual 10 times. And these references include this statement or similar wording, at the time of the flood. There is no mention of at the time of the hailstorm when the page includes the phrase substantial damage. There is only one mention of hail in the flood insurance manual. On Appendix A, policy page A-73, section 5, exclusions, part D. We do not insure for direct physical loss caused directly or indirectly by 1, the pressure or weight of ice, 2, freezing or thawing, 3, rain, snow, sleet, hail, or water spray, and continues on with other exclusions. I would ask the city to review the FEMA flood insurance manual and the state of Illinois flood damage assessment packet. A reasonable person would not come to the conclusion that hail damage should be included in the city's instructions regarding substantial damage determinations. The city should rescind their letter dated April 29, 2025, and focus on damage related to flooding, as FEMA and the state of Illinois FEMA offices have done. And for those of us who have complied with this letter, expunge the record from all submissions by residents who complied with the original City of O'Fallon letter dated April 9, 2025. Would you like a copy of this? Thank you.
Jeff, do you have anything on that?
So so Chad Truman is our floodplain official, building code official. He's the one that administers and researches all the floodplain documentation. I'm not as well versed in it, so Chad would have to look into it, or potentially something be brought up at the community development department since he falls under their purview.
I spoke with Chad Truman about it a couple of weeks ago. He said that it's a requirement of the city's participation in the National Flood Insurance Program whenever there is a designated storm that we send letters to all properties that are within the National Flood Insurance Program that are in the floodplain according to the National Insurance Flood Program, and that's the letter that was required to be sent in order for us to continue participation. So details.
Why does the manual not state that? Because it does not.
So the
You should actually look at the FEMA manual or call the FEMA office like I did.
So the details on following up on that, I agree with Jeff, would need to be referred to Chad, and I can get information for you on that. But that was the information that he relayed to me. Now the details of it of substantial damage and hail versus flood, I'm not aware of, but we can check into that and get back with you. So.
Okay. Any other comments?
Hi, my name is Mary Coleman. I live at 849 Deer Creek Road, and I'm the house that's on the corner next to the little bridge that overflows. It overflows into my backyard every time there is a flash flood. I've been flooded 4 times. So, and according to what this gentleman just said regarding the letter, I too received the letter. I thought it didn't apply because it didn't have anything to do with the flood or the creek. And I had made arrangements to get my roof damage repaired. Chad Turan came by my house. He caught me outside in the backyard. He explained to me about the letter, and he said that no project or I couldn't do any work until they received information as to how much it was going to cost. He's collecting that information, and he says that if the total cost of all repairs, cumulative, the flood or any other disaster, if it exceeds 50% of the assessed value of your property, you have to have your house elevated. Now, I don't know how you elevate a house that's on a concrete slab on a basement. I don't know how that works. I don't know how much that costs. I don't know how that's enforced. Anybody here got any information that you can provide me with that? Because I'm almost at that 50%.
I don't, but again, I could say that the venue that question probably is better suited to be asked would be community development, because that's where code.
And that's who I spoke to, Chad.
That's what, but this is Public Works, so the community development, what date is it? Next Monday? I mean, the Monday after, I meant. It's not my committee, so I'm not sure what day.
It is, yeah, it's May 12th, and unfortunately, the people who could answer that question for you weren't here because this wasn't an item on the agenda, so I'm sorry that we don't have the details that you're seeking, so.
One other point while I'm up here, please. Directly behind my house, there's a pole that goes across the creek there, and it's a little, okay, and yeah, and then a little concrete thing that's around it, and that's where a lot of the debris backs up and stacks up against that, and then of course, over time, it causes water maybe to, you know, back up and overflow into my yard, or at least that has been my experience. And last year, about this time of the year, there were 4 guys from the city. They were back there in the edge of my backyard. They were looking and discussing, and I walked back there to find out. And they explained to me that they were supposed to be reinforcing the backside of the creek, just, you know, back behind my house, to give it more stability. And they said that they would be doing that starting in about 2 weeks from then. They had come out, put little flags all over the backyard, you know, to map out to make sure there were no lines involved or anything like that, sewer lines or electrical or what have you. And they said they'd be out, and then nobody ever came. And I haven't heard from them since. And I wonder if that's a project that's still being considered.
I'd have to talk with our sewer operations department. I'm not familiar with any repair being done there. I know Mr. Pfeiffer referenced further downstream, we had to do some emergency repair with piling, but I will talk to them about the sewer, what we call it, the flyover. That's a sanitary sewer line that's draining, that's elevated above the creek channel.
Any other comments?
Dave Pfeiffer again. I also got that letter, and I'm baffled since the start of that letter starts with a floodplain. And that floodplain is established by Public Works, by a letter of map revision that was done in 2007. So why that?
2023, remember they amended it again in 2023.
Yeah, amended again, but that's where the main one that started. And why this program, being floodplain, isn't squarely underneath Public Works, I don't understand. Absolutely, the two are associated. Chad Truen should be working for Public Works and answering to them and working to get the floodplain fixed along with damages. This was an appalling program. You know, I got this letter. I also looked at it. It doesn't apply to me. Okay? And then Chad showed up on my doorstep. Explained to me that we're in a floodplain, needed that. Needed my insurance assessment damage costs like everybody else that they asked here. Why? What do you need that for? And I didn't give it to him, and I'm not going to. Okay? And then he proceeded to tell me that we have to, again, collect the damages, and when it collectively gets above 50% of the house from non-flood-related items, we have to raise your house up. Anybody got a picture of what that takes to do? Anybody to raise the homes of 15 structures down there. If you could even do it, which I really don't think you can, hundreds of thousands of dollars to do that. And for you to sit here and say, it's not a Public Works thing, this is squarely a Public Works issue. Because then I told him, hey, you're gonna damage our house, it's gonna be worthless. Chad, being the smart guy that he is, he said, no, Mr. Pfeiffer, the value of your house is gonna go up when you're done. Amazed. How's that gonna happen? Well, you're out of the floodplain now. So these comments are incredible. I mean, did you hire a used car salesman to come to my house and implement this program? I can't believe the comments that were made by him. The last place I expected for a major program, because this is a major program, because it could lead to the destruction of 15 homes, is to hear this on my front porch by a random city employee. That's appalling. This program should have been briefed to us in detail, and you obviously also don't know anything about it, or do you? This is just amazing, and the person that administrated this program, I don't know how he even got, it just appalls me that he got this far. You steal our creek, now you put on a program that's going to destroy our homes. It's just amazing me. You got a solution to the problem? Lower the floodplain. We were out of the floodplain when we bought our homes. There's the solution. Get us out of the floodplain. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Sydney Cuck. I'm at 829 Deer Creek. We got the same letter, and I have a question. It's my understanding that that letter we should be addressing that with the Community Development Program. Is that correct?
So yeah, the Community Development Department is the department that issues all building permits and then also administers our floodplain ordinances. So they would be the group that you would need to discuss this with.
And you are all not familiar with the letter at all? None of you are familiar with that letter that you received?
I'm familiar with the letter that was
Okay.
sent out, yes.
Okay, and it said 50% of damage, if it's up to 50% of the value of our home. Other than, if it's not, do we have to send in permits to get our work done?
Again, I don't know all the details related to the program. It would need to be discussed with community development, or I'm sure if you call in and speak with them, they can go more details as to what's required and what's not.
Okay, and when did the floodplain got reassessed, in what year? I mean, because as Mr. Pfeiffer said, we were not in a floodplain at one point, and then now we match clear in the floodplain. When did that change?
I'd have to go back through and look at the letter of map revisions that were done to get the specific dates.
And was that a FEMA, was that a federal, or was that a city that changed it?
It's FEMA.
FEMA changed it. Okay.
And the collection of the damage is to submit a report to FEMA as a requirement of the National Flood Insurance Program. That's why Mr. Truen is asking for the damage assessments, because he's required to submit that report to the federal government as part of the National Flood Insurance Program.
But that's only if it's 50% of the cost of your home.
Well, I think he's collecting, and he's going to have to submit the report either way. And of course, I'm speaking a bit out of turn because I don't have the details, but the requirement is if your damages are up to 50%, then there's a requirement as being in the flood insurance program to raise it above the flood insurance. But if it's less than that, then my understanding is then you can go ahead and do it. And you know, if you have a $300,000 house, if you have $150,000 in hail damage,
yeah.
I believe but I do believe it's cumulative, so it adds up. So every time you do repair, it keeps increasing.
After 5 years of flooding or.
Not even flooding.
Yeah.
But yeah, because.
Every time you turn around.
Yeah, that's my understanding. It's a cumulative calculation.
It should not be hail, it should be flooding.
That's
where you
Yeah.
gotta get this
And
thing straight.
and we'll talk with Chad, and he has people that he deals with at FEMA, at the state level, that give us guidance on this. So we can get with Chad and talk with them on that and see.
Okay, so would you recommend that we call community development like tomorrow and ask the same question?
Yes,
Can we
you
speak directly
yes you
to
can.
Chad then?
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
And please ask him to call FEMA at the national
Yeah.
federal level, because that's who I spoke with on the phone today. And they said hail was only mentioned once in that entire manual, and it was not allowed to be, I put it in my note, but it wasn't allowed to be,
Sir, please, if you want to speak, could you come to the microphone?
I'm done, I made my speech.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, hi, Ron Cook. My wife Sydney just spoke. That letter, some other things in that letter that I got from Chad were, it said I needed a permit to do any kind of electrical, any kind of work at all on my house, you know, and then I asked him, okay, so I'm getting this work done, I need a permit? He says, well, I'll just put the permit in for you, and you know, I put the paperwork in for the permit. So what's a permit then? There's no charge? I have to, I want to change the light switch. It says any electrical, I need a permit on that sheet that he gave me that day. I'm just curious what the format is if I want to put in a new light switch outside or a new coach light or something, which I need to repair from the hail damage. Do I need a permit? That's my question.
Yeah. Again, any questions related to building codes or permits would need to be directed to community development.
My name is Erin Eberhardt, and I live at 757 Deer Creek Road. We received the same letter from April 9th, and so our questions you're telling us should go to that Chad Truin, correct? And then the community development meeting, that is going to be May 12th, 2025.
Correct.
Here,
Yes.
and what time is that? Where we can find it online.
6 o'clock is typical
Okay.
time, but check the website, because we're typically 6:30 and we were moved up today, so it can
but
change.
if we have further questions regarding the specific letters we've received, we should ask him.
Yes.
Yeah, I would encourage you to contact the office directly, and then you can get your information from them prior to the meeting, because if you ask those questions at a committee meeting like this, they're likely going to tell you, well, I need to look into your specific address, and then they'll want to talk to you one-on-one later. So I would encourage you to speak one-on-one with community development prior to the committee meeting so you can learn more about what your property.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Again, my name is Tracy M. McSorley at 837 Deer Creek Road, and Engle Creek runs behind my property. When I first bought my house in 2005, there was a lot of debris and several trees behind my property. I owned it, I fixed it, I got it cleaned up. Some of my neighbors don't do that. And some of the stuff that's upstream winds up coming downstream. Last year when we had that really bad storm, one of those incidents happened, but then there was another storm, and then that stuff went further down, and then it hit the sewer line and the culvert. I've called repeatedly, I've spoken to people at Public Works about this issue. But one of the problems is that we have the riparian areas, but the riparian areas seem to be getting overflown, and they're not doing their jobs that they're designed to do. The one along Smiley, where the hill is at, and the bridge, and then the one when you're on Deer Creek, there's another bridge, another culvert. And then the riparian areas behind both of those are not doing their jobs because they're not deep enough or shallow enough, and the water's not channeling properly. If you haven't done the study about that, I'm asking you to do the study about that. Because those areas were supposed to be designed to let the water flow into them, to dissipate the strength downstream so it would spread it out a little bit and slow it down. Not doing their jobs. Because the amount of water that we're getting now downstream, and then because another problem is the culvert and the bridge that runs underneath Seven Hills Road, because it's not wide enough and it's not sufficient enough to handle the flow of water that's coming down now. That sewer line definitely impacts the flow of water for the 15 houses that are directly on Deer Creek Road, from Seven Hills and Deer Creek and further down to Mr. Cupspar. His is the last one in the line before the riparian areas. So I'm here as a constituent asking for the Public Works Committee to look further into this. January 2023 was when FEMA was making changes to the flood zone and the maps that we have to deal with. And I know because I got another increase in my flood insurance, and I've been paying flood insurance on my property since 2005. But that was one of the things that was pointed out, is that, like, you know, you have these things that are supposed to help mitigate flooding, that certain organizations, government agencies are supposed to take care of, and it's not being done, or it's not sufficient, because over time, those things fail because the climate's changing. So that's what I'm asking for our Public Works Division to do, is look into getting another study, working with the FEMA individuals for the state of Illinois and for the federal government, so we can get a better plan, especially since development's gonna continue happening, not just where we're at, further downstream. We need to start addressing this. I know we're only 15 homes, but we're 15 people who are taxpayers and who are making contributions to our community. Thank you very much.
And I can speak to that a little bit. So the Deer Creek subdivision drainage study is currently underway. Hoping to wrap that up by the end of next month, but that's looking at not only just the bridge on Seven Hills, but then also that erosion upstream and downstream from that at the same time.
We also have to look at the bridge that runs under Smiley and the way that the water flows underneath that, because that area was supposed to allow the water to, the area underneath Smiley, on the east side of Smiley, was supposed to be an area that the water would spread out before it went downstream again. And that's not working effectively because the banks are too high and the water can't do that anymore, even when the flooding is bad. And then the area, the riparian area for the bridge that runs under Deer Creek Road, that riparian area is also now getting clogged, and there's debris, and there's things happening with that. And when the water finds a way, water is always going to find a way. Yes, I'm from New York. So we need to just look at that. That's all I'm asking for. You said the study's underway. Thank you very much. But those are the other areas. It's not just Seven Hills. It's the bridge underneath Smiley, and it's the bridge underneath Deer Creek.
Good afternoon. My name is Bart Enos. I live on 805 Deer Creek Road. And although I don't have extensive details like the rest of my community back here does, I just wanted to get myself up here, my voice up here, added to your minutes, to say thank you for my neighbors here for presenting the information, the facts, and their perspectives on this, because this is not an individual homeowner issue. This is a community issue. And we can call it just 15 houses, but that is a community. So the issues with the floodplain and the flooding in the folks in the people's backyards is definitely real. I've been here since 2010. Obviously, I haven't put a whole lot of study into the history of this, but I will say that I have lost probably approximately 25 feet of land in my backyard because of the erosion. I don't think there's a tree between Lincoln and Seven Hills Road that is too big to flow down Ingle Creek. I have seen trees that my kids walk across, that I can walk across, and those trees have been long gone, and they continue to fall in from upstream, flow down, block the drainage by the bridge, and impact people's houses. So just wanted to put my piece out there as far as 805 Deer Creek. I have not had water come up to my house. Don't think it will, but I am in a floodplain, and when it's not raining, that water level, you can go out there and see minnows swimming in it, kids play in it. Sometimes I don't advise them to do that, but when it's raining and we get some of the storms that we have, that's a class 4 rapids. It's very bad. So thank you, appreciate it.
Hi, again, I'm Karen Pfeiffer, 801 Deer Creek Road. I will tell you that Mr. Turin's visit caused a lot of angst in the neighborhood. We were not happy with the fact that we had no idea that this was on the books. I don't know that any of you do. I went and he told me I asked him about the ordinances. He told me to go look them up, so I did. The first one was put in effect in November of 2003. Now, my house was built in 1992. Some of the houses, I think Mary's was 1988. So we predate this ordinance, and we should be grandfathered. We shouldn't have to comply with this. I think it's unfair. It's too costly. There is no way. We all have walkout basements. You tell me how I'm going to raise up a house with a walkout basement. It's not going to happen. One of the things I've noticed about this modification in 2020, when we all were home with COVID, the purpose of this ordinance, the first thing they say is to prevent unwise development from increasing flood or drainage hazards to others. Now, when we built our house in 1992, Deer Creek Road did not go through. Everything up by Fulton Junior High School, everything to the west of us, everything to the north of us did not exist. When those homes were built, the engineers allowed the developers to do what they wanted. They did not build proper detention. So most of that water, you might get 1 or 2 drains going into a detention pond. But if you go back and look at the plats, and we have looked at the plats over the last 20 years that we've been yelling at you, that most of that stuff goes directly into the creek with nothing slowing it down. So after 30 plus years of living in our home, we have lost trees. We have lost ground. We have lost what once was a pretty, pretty backyard. And not just me, like Bart said, all of our neighbors. And we're all impacted by this. And now you want to come to us and tell us we have to get a building permit to fix hail damage or any other kind of damage. I don't want to waste my time coming down here and get a building permit. I think Mary had the builder, you had the roof guys in your yard, did you? Yeah, they're in her driveway. We had no idea. She's ready to put a roof on. Now she's got to get a building permit. Sorry, I have to look at my notes. The other thing we have to talk about is the sewer erosion. We've all got the sewer line. You talked about the trunk line that we're going to repair. That line runs through our backyards. So when you've recently fixed east of us on farm property where the sewer line became exposed, and you've had to put in some ugly pylons and backfill it with rock because the sewer line becomes exposed, that's what's going to happen in our yards. By then, I will have my concrete out my back door, and then about where that cord is where the sewer line is. So if I have to wait till that happens, my property is totally ruined. So that trunk line needs to get fixed where houses are impacted. And we don't need to wait 10 years, because in 10 years, that's where the creek will be. Right now, I still have trees. I don't look to those to stay around. One of the other things that Mary mentioned is where the sewer line crosses the creek at Seven Hills Road. The tributary that comes out of Wildwood and comes down Seven Hills Road, that section has become exponentially wider. And it is exposing the sewer line on the other side of the creek from a different direction. So you guys all need to come out, and I would ask our aldermen, our alderwomen, to come out and come over to my house and let's go walk the creek. Let me show you what's happening there, because I don't think you know. You can drive by it and go, oh yeah, look at that. But if you don't come out and walk it, you don't see the group of trees that fell over and took out a massive, massive piece of land right behind Aaron's house. It's time for you guys to help us slow this water down and fix the infrastructure. Thank you.
Any further comments?
We'll go with one more.
Vern's coming up.
Sorry.
Vern Moore, Ward 3. I've lived in O'Fallon a lot of years. I've been here and back several times, and I really feel sorry for the people who live in this Deer Creek area. I really do. It's really sad that this is carried on this much, and contractors have had their ways with doing things around town. I can name contractors, but I won't. Because I won't, but I can, but I won't. That's gotten away with a lot of stuff, and the city just turned a blind eye to it. It'd be really interesting to go through those points, but no, I won't. I'm sorry. I really am. It only took 56 years for them to fix, supposedly, the streets in the presidential area. I still have water problems. There's 2 retention ponds in my 2-block area, and only one of them holds water. Nobody ever wants to drive by and see when it's raining. There ain't no water in them but one. I don't understand it. I get water all the time in my yard. It's all over the place. You got water running 3 different streets down my street, down Adams, to catch into the retention pond there. It goes there, but it don't go to the other 2, and one's right across the alley from it too. No water ever in that thing. I don't understand how you're running it. because you're not running it right, because I still get water constantly. And you know I complain about this every time, and I'm gonna continue to complain about it, because it's not done right, and it hasn't been done right from the get-go. And I feel sorry for you. It might take you 56 years, but I don't think we all got that long. So get off the wagon and do something.
I just want to address one thing with that sewer line that crosses the creek. The city years ago put pilings in front of that sewer line on the north side, or the south side of it, to protect the sewer, the creek bank on that side. From the time they put that in, it baffled me as why they didn't do both sides. Why would you protect one side of that sewer line and not the other? Because what that has done, as that water erodes back behind those pilings, it takes out that part, but it pushes the water over in Mrs. Coleman's yard and destroys her property by directing the water over to her property. And that should have been done years ago to done that. And that's the project she's talking about, that those people came out in her backyard and stood around and didn't do anything, hasn't shown up. That project should have been done years ago to keep that would happen. The problem with some of this is that every time it rains, that rain solves a little bit of your problem. Because every time it opens the creek up and widens the bank, it gives you more capacity to dump water through there. Every time. So the longer you delay, the more your problem solves, and the more erosion and the creek banks are destroyed on our property. And it's going to continue forever. It's demonstrated by the ones I just talked about, the trees that came down. There are hundreds of trees along from Smiley to Seven Hills Road that are just waiting to come down, and this creek is exploding every rainfall.
Vern Ward 3. Now, we only got one meeting tonight because we generally have a community development meeting also. Is that correct? Yeah, so they should know that the community development meeting that was supposed to have been here that they could complain at, they didn't have. So you gotta wait 2 weeks for that one. Okay. And this deal about building permits. I have damage in my house. I'm gonna have a new roof put on and shingles and whatever and siding and whatever. And I signed a contract with a contractor, fine and dandy, and he's taking care of all the permits. Why does she need a permit that she needs to come up here and get a permit for? My contractor's taking care of all these permits. Why isn't her contractor taking care of those permits? Huh?
Don't need one.
Oh.
Unless we're in the floodplain. Then my neighbor across the street doesn't need one.
Okay. Well, then, I want to move on one quick thing for this last warrant report, number 557. Under the Public Works Department, you bought anchor bolts, $9,413.80 worth of anchor bolts. Can I ask what size those were and what you're going to anchor down?
I'm not going to know a specific invoice right off the top of my head. I really highly doubt. I highly doubt it was anchor bolts. I highly doubt it was anchor bolts for 9,000, but I can look into it.
I mean, that's what's in there. That's what I got it off. I mean, what are you buying? You know.
And that's why we ask that you contact the finance department about the warrant stuff, because they have the invoices in front of them. And
I'm reading off of what's in the little blurb they put in there.
I understand, but the people up here don't have that in front of them at every meeting.
Because we don't do that anymore, where I can come and ask about things because you don't have that 5:30 meeting before you have the regular meeting.
You can make an appointment any day of the week.
No, see, that's the only way the public's gonna know where you're spending this money.
You can let them know as soon as you find out.
That's what I'm doing.
Okay, but you need to come and talk to the people who have the invoices in front of them. They don't wheel them out here every week. Then when you get your answers, you can report to the public.
Okay.
You can let them know what you find out.
All right, there's no more additional comments. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?